Hi guys, welcome to another episode of our podcast Talent First. Today we have someone who is heading analytics at one of the biggest alcohol beverages brand across the globe in India and is a teetotaler. So hi Soudhakar, hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Raghav?
Very good, very good. So you just saw, right? I said you're a teetotaler heading analytics at one of the biggest alcohol beverage brands in the world. And I've heard this thing that people who own an alcohol shop, they never drink it. People who deal in anything, like they don't do it. So is that why you don't do it?
Maybe partly. So I think the stocks can be safe if we do that. So that could be partly the reason for it.
Perfect. Very cool, very cool. So Sudhakar, you have seen our podcast as you were telling me.
Yeah.
Would want to understand, before we get into your journey, a small elevator pitch about who is Soudhakar.
Okay. Well, Soudhakar is a small town boy to start with. Okay, so I born and brought up in Pondicherry, so it's a small town, hardly like 5-6 kilometers radius. So you can't do anything fun stuff. You'll be caught by your dad. So that's the worst part. And the best part is, being a small town, it's completely relaxed. A bit of Pondicherry is always there with me. So we are always laid back. We don't, we never show the sense of urgency for anything.
Right.
So that has helped me to stay calm and composed. And childhood, I studied during my school days, and I was an average student, so I wasn't the brightest chap. But the tipping point happened, once I realized that, there is no way I'm going to progress in my life. So that part happened when I was in my undergraduate, without knowing, what it is actually about. So I did my undergraduate in BTech Industrial Biotechnology, thinking that industrial biotechnology is something to do launching rockets in Sriharikota, but it's not that, right? It's about vaccines, many biotech products, fermentation of bacteria, etc. put together. So I was pretty bad with bio, so I didn't know that what I'm actually signing up for. So there was a counseling, so there was a seat that I picked. Like every other Indian, I wanted to become an engineer. So no matter what. So I picked biotechnology, which landed me up into bio, the subject I hated without knowing what it is. And then I asked my professors, so from here, how am I going to move? So I asked them, they are saying there's so much of scope for biotechnology, so what is that scope? So they said, there is a lot of scope to do, after your BTech, you can do MTech. I said, okay, after MTech, what is the scope?
Yeah.
I was actually hinting at a job.
But MTech, after that, people do research and stuff like that, right? Most people.
Yeah, that's the bad news that was waiting for me. So I didn't know that, what I actually signed up for. So he said, there's a lot of scope to do PhD. After PhD, what would happen?
You did PhD?
Thankfully, I didn't. Then they said, after PhD, it is going to be postdoctorate fellowship. So he gave a prescription for 20 years of studies.
This is who? Your father or your...
No, the professors over there. My father didn't know about it. So all I know was, after BTech, you get a campus placement and you get a job, sit in some of the top services company like Wipro, Infosys, etc. And your life is settled. Yeah. So this is the process which I wanted to do. But later I realized that that's not exactly is going to happen in my life. So I was a bit upset. So then I want to wiggle out of the situation. So I badly wanted a move out of biotech. That's when I decided to do MBA. So by reading...
You went to IIM, right?
IIT. IIT Madras. I did my MBA at IIT Madras. So that's when things started changing. So I did my undergraduate without knowing a lot of things, or else genuinely interested in it.
No, so if I was trying to look at your journey, I was trying to break it into 3 parts in my head. First part was before you did your BTech. The other part was post you did your MBA. And the other part was post Flipkart.
Yeah.
That's the way I would try to think of your journey, and I have a reason behind that. And for me, the reason is that till you were in school, till you went to BTech, you were more on the academic side. You were more of a person who was following a norm.
Yes.
Now you followed that norm, you went into it, you did well, but कुछ missing था. There was something which you felt कि I cannot settle in life.
Yeah.
Something like that. And that's where this MBA thing that you say, this IIT branding comes into picture. Now post IIT, you work in some of the top companies of the world. But Flipkart is where you actually get into action. Because this is my take, I can be wrong.
Okay.
Because you were in Flipkart from 2014 to 2017.
Yeah.
And that was the most hot time in Flipkart.
Yeah.
That was the time they became a unicorn, first unicorn. That was the time they raised $1 billion, one single check. I think South Bank or Tiger Global put out that check. That was the time a lot of this startup movement was happening in this country. You were right in the middle of it. And post that, we see that you go on a leadership track. So let's try to look at your journey in 3 aspects. Pre-BTech. So pre-BTech, you were a nerd. Was that the case?
No, not really. So I said, I'm an average student. So like
Average.
middle bench. So try to disappear into the crowds.
Yeah.
So that's how I was. So
Nothing
never liked
extraordinary,
the
nothing-
limelight.
very
Nothing,
normal.
Nothing. So anything other than studies, I was interested in.
Okay.
So that kind of a person.
Anything other than studies?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a very broad statement, but I like it.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I was an average student, trying to follow the process set by the parents,
Yeah.
right? So any Indian parents and what they talk during the lunch break influenced, what I have to do in my life for the next 30, 40 years. So that's how it all started. But after that, things changed. So then, I started to think about seriously about what next kind of a question, right? So it appears, for various people it happens at various points of time. For me, thankfully it happened relatively early. I was about 21, 22 when I took the decision that I don't want to do this. So I want to make a career switch, which is a very big
From
statement.
bio to
MBA.
tech.
Yeah, bio to something other than bio. But MBA is something that I did some research, so basic research, and said that, okay, so the first thing was, the first enticing thing of getting into MBA is, one of my friend told me that you can buy a Bajaj Eliminator in your first month of salary. So that caught my
that's a
imagination.
bike.
Yeah, bike. So
How much was that bike for?
75,000 at that point of
इतनी
time.
salary मिलती थी उस time पे?
He said, I believed it. So you can tell, and a history. I was in a very naive at that point of time. Even though even some part of it is still there, but not that naive. But yeah, I bought. I was dreaming about, okay, how about buying Bajaj Eliminator in my first month's salary. So MBA is the thing to do. Then later realized that there is a lot of hoops that I have to jump. So I have to clear CAT. I have to clear JMET. There are many exams were there, right? So I started preparing for it very seriously. My father said, I told this to my father. My father said, first, you have like 3 backlogs. Basically, you have
So
arrears.
you are not a nerd. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I was opposite of a nerd. So my father said, you have 3 backlogs, and you want to do MBA. It's no joke. You are going to compete with the best of the best in the country.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll give it a try. So give me 6 months. Then my father has been extremely supportive in my entire career. So he believed in me.
What is his background? If you could tell us, what did he do and what does he do?
He's an Ayurvedic pharmacist.
Oh, very interesting.
So government pharmacist.
Wow, okay. Very cool. No, so let's try to understand one thing, right? Genpact is your first job.
Yes.
And I think Genpact is the whole genesis, is the whole place where this analytics industry, I think, in India has seen its birth in a huge way. Now, when you went to Genpact, and as I was just talking to you, and this is my personal feeling, you have generally been a shy guy. Generally, like by shy I mean you're not the most vocal people, you're not salesy. That's a better way to put it, right?
Yeah, true.
That's a better way to put it. So you go to Genpact. आप थोड़े shy हो. आप पौंडीचेरी से आते हो. Protected environment में रहते हो. Genpact में you have people from Bombay, Delhi, Gurgaon, all kinds of people from different kinds of schools. North India के बहुत लोग हैं वहाँ पे. North Indians are, as you know, including myself, more vocal, more chill. And sometimes people from South India, that too young people, are a bit like
Shy.
Be and a bit annoyed or bit can you like relax? But when you look at people from North, South, I'm trying to generalize, when they try to do their first job together when they're 22, 23, we have seen that the people from South feel a bit left out considering the fact that the North people are very vocal, trying to be social, trying to network. People from South are more about their work. I'm trying to generalize it. But when you started your career in Genpact, did you feel that, you know what, I am smart, I'm doing my work, but I'm not that vocal about what I'm doing?
I mean, initially, I did felt that. Okay, so to be honest, it happened to me. So it was kind of overwhelming. So when we talk about job, right, it's more than what we do in an Excel sheet, right? So it is also how we interact with people and how we connect with people. So there has to be a lot of connections, etc.
Yep.
So networking plays a very, very important role in your career progression.
Yep.
So it was very hard for me to understand that particular fact. So you put down your head and then do your work is what the mantra, like you said. I mean, of course, there are exceptions to these cases. Yeah, by and large, you were right about the South Indian, North Indian kind of a thing. But however, once you interact with those folks, right, it happens to be, I have a good mix of people who are from other parts of India, like from Delhi, Mumbai, etc. So Mumbai, they call themselves in a western part of India, right? So and I do have friends from Manipur, Assam, etc. So I mean, without my knowledge, I had a good diversity of friends. So that way, I initially, it was overwhelming. At some point of time, I kind of, got the complete feel of it. So until unless you put yourself into a box and say that, I'm, if someone speaks in Tamil, my spidey senses would tingle
that
and then
happened.
talk to that only to that person, right? So that was kind of limiting for me initially. I was only being friends with Tamil bye kind of a thing. But later, I started talking with other people, which was an eye opening. So
I think the game, what you said, is about getting outside the comfort zone.
True.
That is the game, right? Because I talk to a lot of these young guys who started their careers in these companies, and when I talk to them, they are like, Raghav, I feel that, this is not my place. I feel a bit left out. Why do you think so? Who do you talk to in office? And all of them try to tell me that, this guy is from my town, my state, speaks the same language. And that is where the problem is.
Yeah, true.
You cannot confide to them. And as a matter of fact, my belief is don't talk to them. Because उनसे तो आप वैसे ही बात कर लोगे. वो तो वैसे ही आपसे बात कर लेंगे, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You need to talk to people who are stark opposite of you. Because the perspectives you will get, the kind of knowledge share that will happen, that is going to really, really help you.
Yeah, true. So again, even history has taught us this, right? So it's not the strongest animal that survives this evolution, right? It's the animal which is robust, which can adapt to situations. So that's what will keep us going, and that's true. So wherever you go, you have to do some adaptations, right? So not everywhere, and I'm going to find a fellow Pondicherrian because you hardly have 1 million people and 4 streets, and finding someone is quite rare at any other part of this world. And thankfully, Bangalore has been a melting point of so many different cultures, and you get to find a fairly good population of people.
No, definitely. And what I love about Bangalore is that people here, all of them are migrants in a way, right?
Yeah.
And when everyone is a migrant, they are all very open to meet new people and not be judgmental. If you go to other towns, most of the people are very well settled there, or their generations have lived on those towns. I'm not naming any particular town, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In Bangalore, the general sense that I get is most people here are migrants. Most people here are people who are also trying to find their circle, and they're open to meet new kind of people.
True.
So you go to IIT for MBA. That just doesn't add up. IIT for MBA. I'm sure you must have thought of IIMs and all.
Yeah, I failed miserably. So that's the honest answer. So
नहीं तो ये कैसे हुआ? मतलब IIM में आप देखो, IIM का आपका ड्रीम होगा to go for MBA, and नहीं हुआ, but you went to IIT for MBA. तो जो आपके relatives थे, जो आपके रिश्तेदार थे, how did they behave to it? Because IIT is a very big deal. IIT Madras, big deal.
Yeah, big deal. True.
But MBA is not something that people talk about when they think of IIT. So how was it in your relatives, in your friend circle? Like, did you say I'm an IIT, or did you say MBA from IIT? How was that?
Okay, so for my relatives, rishtedar. Right?
Rishtedar, हाँ. पहली first Hindi word you have spoken. I was requesting him that please let's speak in Hindi, but he's like, no, you speak in Hindi.
No, I mean my Hindi is quite poor. Maybe
try
I might
करो ना,
confuse
try
them.
करो ना, मजा आएगा.
Yeah, it will be funny.
That's what we want.
More than fun, it will be funny. So,
Okay, sure.
yeah, okay, so my relatives, right? So they know about IIT, so they don't know what is the nuances that BTech is the best one or whatever it is, right? So they are not into that. So when they heard IIT, they were like totally happy. Like they were extremely happy for me. And thankfully, we have relatives, they are like extended family. We are about a very large family. I would say very, very close.
Like how large? 30 people?
No, bigger than that, close to 100. So my father's side, my mother's side, everybody is very close. My cousins and everybody. Yeah. So they have been in a very, very pivotal.
You keep going to Pondicherry?
Yeah.
How often do you go?
So nowadays, it has come down quite a lot.
Every year you go once?
Yeah, twice I go there. My parents are right now in Bangalore, so
nice.
I have lesser reasons to go there. But however, beach is one good reason to.
Yeah, and the boats also, they have houseboats and all of that are there, right? Or no?
Houseboats, I think that would have been a recent development. So
I am confusing.
Houseboats in Kerala, I think. So
probably.
in Pondicherry, there is a backwater.
Fair enough. Cool. So IIT you go, in IIT Madras you're doing MBA. Now, when you are around those people in IIT, people generally are smart, of what I'm assuming.
There are exceptions also, right? So I'm one of them.
No, that's what I'm coming to. That's what I'm coming to. When you are in a circumstance, in a surrounding like that, it's very easy for a person to feel a bit insecure, for a person to feel a bit overwhelmed, for a person to have a self-doubt kind of thing. Now, चलो IIT में तो घुस गए, but घुसने के बाद वहाँ पे compete भी तो कर रहे हैं. You're competing with the best minds of the country.
True.
When you were amongst those people, कभी आपको लगा यार I am not good enough?
Yeah, right from day zero, I felt that. Okay, so to be honest, I said, I was a average student, right? So once, me getting into IIT, yes, I did all those hard work and everything, but the perception about me hasn't changed much among my friend circle as well. So it was a big surprise. So people said, I was lucky and everything, and even partly I felt, honestly, I also felt, I was partly lucky. And after going there on day zero, seeing the people, the kind of presentations they give, I was totally intimidated by that.
Yeah.
But thankfully, so after the second quarter, somewhere around in the second or the third quarter, is when I got to know about the professors. So they were fantastic people. So they are very, very supportive. So some of them are, T.T. Narendran is a very senior professor.
No, obviously.
He's a very good...
written a lot of things.
Yeah, so T.T. Narendran and then L.S. Ganesh. So L.S. Ganesh was, a very good friend of mine. So more than a teacher, he has been a very good friend of mine, and he has encouraged me a lot. So once I was in his class, then I gave one right answer. Okay, and he encouraged me that it's a fantastic work. Then that was a flash moment. So from that point onwards, I started doing pretty well on certain kind of subjects, and I completed quite well. And So when I started, I was really scared and everything. I had my self-doubt. Maybe I've bitten more than I could chew. So those kind of feelings were there. But after second or third quarter, when I started making friends and the professors were very, very inviting, on contrary to the opinion that was outside. So whenever people talk about IITs, people say that it's going to be there was also a movie, right?
Three Idiots.
Three Idiots.
I think आप 2007 में थे IIT में?
2007 to 2009.
उसी टाइम पे आई थी. एक आध साल
No. It's 2000 after that. It's 2010, 11 times. Somewhere. So and I read this book, Chetan Bhagat's book, 5 Point Someone. So it also kind of scared about IIT and kind of professors.
Did you ever got ragged in IIT?
No.
No?
No, because we are oldies, right? MBAs.
Okay, fair. Did you rag people?
No.
Don't lie.
No, even in my undergraduate, I've been ragged. But
you've been ragged?
yeah, in B.Tech.
कैसे होता है? थोड़ा explain what kind of ragging happens in B.Tech?
So once, in my undergraduate, in my first year is where ragging is more rampant, and we were trying to go for a movie, and
You remember the movie? No.
Run. Yeah, I remember that movie. I vividly remember what happened that day. So the seniors founders, and they said the first years are not allowed to go for a movie, so you go back to hostels.
Okay.
So we waited till they left the place, and then we took a bus and we entered the theaters. But we didn't know that these guys are going for a movie. We told them we want to go and meet the doctor and whatever lies, right? Like leave letter lies kind of things. We told, and we went there. And there was someone hiding the screen. So I said, I tapped his head and said, sit down. So then that guy turned and it happened to be my senior.
Wow.
Then
Then what happened?
Then we were, they pulled us out and asked us to, eat ice creams in front of people and showed them like this, like, do you want?
कुछ और हुआ है बता नहीं रहे हो आप कैमरा पे. I think we'll put the 3 Idiots clip what the ragging ऐसा कुछ हुआ है.
No, not that, but those raggings are kind of mild, but they are fun as well. So they were very nice guys, but they just did it more of a peer pressure, right? So if you want to prove yourself, you have to do ragging and stuff like that. But I had somehow there are a few things that is etched in my mind, like policies, like strictly no to ragging or bullying. Somehow right from my childhood made it as a point. Maybe it's partly due to Doordarshan. So Doordarshan has this moral stories, no drinking, no smoking kind of campaigns that constantly go. So maybe I could be a success story of that. So that's the reason I never even now I have a very strict policy. I don't want to raise voice against someone. I don't want to get angry on someone.
You don't get angry in your team?
Maybe seldom. So very rarely.
Wow.
So, people have their high points and low points, but if we give enough opportunities, I think everybody can be a star. So that is something that I strongly believe. And that also partly comes from Pankaj Rai, who is my ex-boss. So
at Dell?
Yeah, at Dell.
So I think post your MBA, you go to Dell or no, you were there before Dell?
Genpact. So the mecca of analytics.
Yeah.
They call
post your MBA?
Post my MBA, first job is with Genpact.
That's where do you meet Pankaj? In Dell?
At Dell. He was my boss.
Obviously,
so my boss was Pradeep Menon. So he's right now.
I know.
Yeah, Pradeep Menon is with HSBC now.
Yes.
So yeah. Pradeep Menon is also a very fun person to be with, and he loves photography, and he also has this concept of you have to gel outside work. So he's very particular about if you want to go for an outing, you better be there.
Yeah.
Because in a way, I thought it's all going outing with the team is
What
just
is the
another
point?
ritual. But later I realized that we
Point of
actually it is an important
Very
part
important,
of.
very important. No, very cool. So post IIT, how did the perception about you as a professional change? Because what I assume is that before IIT also you would make sense, but the credibility you didn't have. After having that IIT branding, did that give you a lot of credibility?
Yes.
You saw
More than I deserve, to be honest.
It's very kind of you, but you're saying that it helps.
It helps a lot, and again, it gives a very big advantage to anyone. So anyone who sees IIT in your resume, because there is a reason to it. Because IIT has been consistently the alumni of IITs has been in lots of places. So you are going to be people do refer you or benchmark you with those folks. Even if you are an average student at IIT, there is a lot of expectations on you. Because you do have a potential. If if you can compete with say lakhs and lakhs of people around the country, then probably you are quite competitive. So that perception helped me, and I was every day I am trying to live up to it.
So now after that you work in Dell, and then finally Flipkart happens. This is 2014. 2014 Flipkart. What was the general feeling about Flipkart as an employee, as a As a customer, how was Flipkart perceived? When you were joining, what did you think? Did you actually think that we are building something truly global, like from India, or were you like, हाँ चलो एक startup है देख लेते हैं जाके? क्या thought था?
Okay, so initially joining with with Flipkart, it was a exciting thing because e-commerce and somewhat, I was kind of certain that this is going to be a big company.
You were certain that time, 2014.
Yeah, I was somehow I was certain. So partly maybe not due to my ignorance or whatever it is, but true. I mean, it happened. So it's not the complete information that that made me so confident that Genpact is going to be. So once the culture. So basically, I was employee number 1920
in Flipkart.
Yeah, at Flipkart.
And how many employees are there now? 30,000.
More than that, maybe.
Logistics, if you include, then it will be more than that.
E-card,
if you include, then it will be.
Yeah, it will be more than that. But yeah, the primarily there has been 30 to 35 would be the core.
My God.
So population at Flipkart. So the company had they are like laser focused. So when you work for a large organizations like say Genpact and Dell and coming to Flipkart, so Dell is also very clear about what they want to do, but trickling down because you're very close to the execution level. So in a startup, we are very close to an execution level, whereas in larger companies, the execution level is maybe 7 or 8 levels away from you. Here, it is 3 or 4 levels away from you. So therefore, everything that you do did matter. So at the point of time, these people had like laser focus, and the kind of engineers that I worked with, they had a lot of context. So they don't say that this code failed or something. They will say that if my site is down for a few seconds, this is the opportunity cost. These many customers would be unhappy. This is the kind of conversation that I had with them, and everything is impact at Flipkart. So they will say that okay, so if we don't give returns on time, this is the impact. If we are going to reduce the return days from 30 days to 7 days, this is going to be the impact. So everybody, I'm talking about from intern to the CEO, they talk the same language.
Data driven.
Completely
data driven.
Completely data driven. Yeah, initial days, they had all the math inside their head, but the tools weren't there. But still, even then, they were data.
So tell us one thing, right? I think Flipkart is the only Indian company, the startup, that actually created roughly $50 billion worth of value. Considering PhonePe also is part of them, it's roughly a $50 billion worth of value they've created. What do you think are the top 3 reasons why Flipkart could truly do what it did? Top 3 reasons according to you. Because you have been in the system.
Yeah, so the kind of culture that they make.
Culture.
So number one, the culture, the focus. The third one is they take risks. So one of the risks is MI. Xiaomi.
2014, they launched their phone. This was Redmi.
Even before that, it was Moto G. So Moto G.
I remember. You could change the cover. So I had a Moto G. So in Moto G, I remember you could change the back part of it. This was 14,000 rupees.
It was Moto X. Moto X is where the first model of Moto X is where you can change the back cover. There were like wood kind of finish, cognac leather, wood kind of. You had one. So that the Moto G is 14K, exactly the number that you are saying.
I remember because I remember I had a budget at that time. The budget was around 10,000. This was 14,000. Then the math was how do I talk to my dad about it. But I think I remember. I think Xiaomi, they changed the game with 6,000 rupees or something, 7,000 rupees. Those phones.
Redmi.
And they were metal phone. It was metal back. You remember?
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
So they were taking these risks. So first of all, Motorola, when they wanted to do an exclusive with Flipkart, Motorola was actually more like a comeback for Motorola. It's like Dinesh Karthik coming from his retirement, right? So it was exactly like that for Motorola. So they came up with this phone. These people said the features are quite good, but we don't know what is going to happen in the market. But they were taking that risk. They were taking that risk and they launched the exclusives first time in e-commerce.
Fantastic phone.
Yeah, they were cult phones at that point of time. Selling 3,000 phones a day is a big deal at that point of time. So back in like 2014, it's a big deal. And they were willing to take those risks.
You had that big billion day that time for the first time. Something like that. No, so Flipkart का आपने बोला culture, focus, and the ability to take risks. Let's go a bit deeper into these three things. Culture. What is culture for you? Like आप culture क्या बोलते हो? मतलब as a person, culture की definition बहुत अलग हो सकती है हम दोनों की. आपके हिसाब से culture क्या है?
That's the environment that you're trying to build.
Just the air that you breathe.
Yeah. So the environment, plus there are also unsaid. So there are rules. So rules won't be part of culture. The unsaid ones. So the way you say, for example, if you're working in a bank, you always wear a blazer and go to the office. So that's actually a culture. There is nowhere written that you have to wear a blazer. So these unwritten rules or unwritten rituals that people follow will make the culture. So at Flipkart, there are lots of these unwritten rules. Like
give us 1-2 examples.
So one example is people in complete casual. So shorts is sometimes
I
was wearing office.
Yeah, was a big deal.
It was
now
a big
it's a very
deal.
common thing, but that time was a very big deal.
Yeah, and people always talk about. People they also laugh at a serious situation. Say something like that, if we lost somewhere around 1.5 crores, right? Some people, would laugh at that. I mean, they won't, take it that seriously, but they will, make sure that, it won't happen again, but they won't, really be, scared about it. First time when I heard, right, and I was literally, trembling. I was, we lost like 15 crores because, I gave a wrong number.
Wow.
So I felt completely guilty.
Wow.
So that guy was patting on my back and saying
that,
the
thumbnail of this video would be, this guy lost 15 crores.
Maybe, just, putting it,
Right.
So that happened, and the guy who was responsible for that patted on my back and he took me for a coffee, and he was joking about it. So then I realized that when you start looking at your problems in a different way, and they don't if they don't look at failure the way that normally anybody would look at. So they won't feel really bad about it. They will make sure that it won't happen again.
Yeah.
So, and they are quite casual about those mistakes. So basically, they give another chance to.
I think for companies like Flipkart, and what we are also learning from these companies is that when the vision is so big, when the problem statement that you're trying to solve is so big, these experiments and these failures are important because they are increasing your probability towards that success.
True.
And like for what these companies do, and also we are trying to learn from that, is that we have this value called fail forward.
Yeah.
Fail fast. Like you have to fail, but fail it fast, do it fast. I think that is very, very critical. And I think companies like Flipkart have only brought this into the ecosystem. This did not exist in India. We were a very risk-averse business kind of country.
True.
But now you talk to entrepreneurs, they are talking about how big a risk they are taking.
Yeah.
So one was culture. Second was focus. And when you talk about focus, for me, it's about data. Because focus comes from data. There is no other way you can say there is focus.
Yeah.
Because you're tracking. You're tracking the minute, the bare minute details that no one can imagine. Tell us an example in Flipkart कि आपने इतना focus किया, इतना data driven हुआ है that no one can think of.
I mean, like I already mentioned, like everybody talks about what is that what it actually means. Say, for example, if it's going to be a metric like out of stock. So people know that even the intern in Flipkart would know what does that really mean for a customer.
Yep.
What does it really mean for our P&L? These two, even an intern would know. So they won't simply say that my report is delayed. That kind of a conversation will never happen. So they will talk about impact and the numbers that our customers would experience, etc. So ads is another team which is quite fantastic when it comes to these kinds of metrics. And I had a leader who was super laser focused. His name is Bhaskar Krishnan. So he also already Flipkart itself is laser focused, and this person has taken it to another level. So he will prioritize things like ruthlessly, to be honest. He says, if something, if you are given like 100 things, you decide, what is the first 3 things which is going to bring value to your company. and you should know, you should have a point of view for that. So I mean, he gives a lot of freedom. He backs you up. So I mean, that kind of a focus is something that I've learned from him. Say like. An intern would talk about this is what experience would mean. So our NPS I mean, they won't even talk about NPS. So they will keep that at the back of their mind. They will say that okay, this is a bad experience for customers, so I'm against it. An intern can say that to a VP.
I think this is a value that I think comes from Amazon also, considering Sachin and Binny's previous stint also. Customer obsession. Obsession. I think they look like stalkers. That level of obsession. I think what I have seen with these companies, predominantly in e-commerce, obsessed. Like small points of what would increase the user experience. They would go to lengths to even have a 1 or 2 second higher output. What I have seen.
Yeah, I mean that happens literally every day. So our A/B testing is that right. So we'll be literally splitting hairs there. So that kind of a precision. So every small experience build-up is quite important for us.
Yeah.
Say for example, the next day delivery. So I still remember when that meeting was going on. Kalyan Krishnamurthy was there about next day delivery.
He was a CEO at that time or no?
I was.
He was not a CEO at that time.
Yeah, so he was a CFO at that point of time. So he's
the Tigers guy, right? He's the Tiger Globals guy.
Tiger Global. So in next day delivery, there was some kind of a burn was there. But at that point of time, Flipkart was very sure about acquiring customers. So there is if the customer experience is going to be great, then we are not going to be worried about burn. So that was the philosophy. And if the one thing that Flipkart is good at it is whether it is right or wrong. So if it has taken a decision, it will stick to it and it will give enough chances. And then if it thinks that it's a failure, only then it moves.
I think that's what you said about risks, right? This stems to that. The third thing that you said, ability to take risks. It's because that whatever risk they're taking at a macro level, it's all calculated. It's already accounted for. Yeah. The kind of money they have raised, the kind of burn they're foreseeing at that time, they were already knowing that they have to take a risk. Yeah. Because the end goal is to capture that customer. True. That is the end goal.
True.
So we now see why Flipkart is where it is. But I think we need to give credit where it is due to the founders, Sachin and Binny Bansal. Did you get a chance to interact with them in any way, or see them, hear them, anecdotes about them that you? Because I would say today's startup story, these two guys are the ones who actually wrote it. Yeah, because right now also we see most of the startups who have done well, many of them are coming from that Flipkart mafia that people call, right? So Sachin, Binny Bansal, any thoughts about them? Anything you learned from them?
I mean, I haven't interacted with them much. Binny Bansal, I was there in one of the meetings. Yeah. That's it. But otherwise, other folks, I've interacted with them. So they pretty much say this, right? There are two different styles. So Sachin has a different style of working, and Binny has a different style of working. So Binny is more data-driven. Sachin is more of, you come up with a disruptive idea, he likes to go for it, that kind of a person. I mean, these are all like
dreamer and doer kind of thing. Something, I don't know.
Something of that sort. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I have very less data points to talk about it. But I've seen them like at a 10 feet distance to walk, or during Big Billion days, they sit in the war room, or it's called as control tower. So I mean, these are all like. I mean, first time around, we were the first Big Billion Day happened.
2015 में हुआ 14 में हुआ
2015, I think. 2015. So I think the October 10th is when we did. The date was something which was vividly in my mind. The reason is it was Binny Bansal's room number, Sachin Bansal's and Binny Bansal's.
I think Diwali के time पे होता था ना this Big Billion Day.
Near Diwali, but I think October 6th or October 10th, somewhere it's.
I'll tell you why I remember this, because September is when I used to have my half yearlies, half yearly exams होते हैं ना जो, and उसी के बाद I remember September 30 के around सबके Amazon के शुरू हो जाते थे. Amazon आ गया था, Snapdeal आ गया था उस time पे. Snapdeal was actually biggest competitor at that time.
Yes.
Amazon so came late, and Flipkart. So I remember that was 1-2 weeks where everyone had their Big Billion kind of thing.
Yeah, their sale days, in fact, they had. So I think Amazon started their Great Indian Festival only in 2017 time, right?
And I was reading, I was listening to Sachin Bansal's interview, and someone was asking me in the Big Billion Day, like, this is so great, the revenue you're doing. I think GMV that you guys crossed was $1 billion. I don't know what the GMV was, whatever. Something like that, whatever.
I think 3,000 crores or something.
Something like that.
We were hitting.
Then he said Alibaba does $100 billion in one day. Some stat like that. Like, that was the level, that was the ambition that the team had. And that's why they could do what they did. They were thinking at a macro level, at a global level. And what value Flipkart has created, I think today our ecosystem, if you look at the funding that happens, is because a lot of investors got exits in Flipkart that they got fuel back.
True.
It is because a lot of employees, a lot of leaders like Sujit, as I was telling you, they were there at the top, learned the ropes there, figured out many things there, and created immense value through companies like Udaan. It is all from that Flipkart ecosystem. And again, people like you who are building technology in this country for top Fortune 500 companies, you could do that because the engineering you learned also at Flipkart played a big role.
Yeah.
Because at Flipkart you were not doing back-end work. आप बोल रहे थे कि Amazon का अगर बंदा Silicon Valley में कर रहा है, तो हमें भी करना है.
Yeah,
that was the case study for you guys, right?
Yeah, that gave a lot of hope for us. In fact, the initial successes that we had and the kind of celebrations we had inside Flipkart, in fact, enabled us. And partly also, I mean, there were also a lot of people, coming from different companies as well. They had their goals, and a lot of people were from Dell. In Flipkart, particularly in analytics, a lot of people came from Dell, and that Dell DNA, Dell Analytics DNA is partly with Flipkart. So you can see recently the director of analytics, Prasanna, right? So we both used to work together at Dell as analysts. So he is right now a director there. Then. There are many people, like at least 15-20 people who moved into, and they are also in leadership roles. So there is a little bit of a Dell Analytics DNA is also there. So I mean, in a way, it's a very interesting company, and I'm quite happy the way they succeeded.
No, I think this is India's probably the biggest success story in the last 2 decades this country has seen. I would say after the likes of Infosys, TCS, Wipro. If we had to look at path-breaking companies who truly gave hope to an average Indian that they too can build something big, was Flipkart.
That's where it all started. Swiggy is doing extremely well, and I do have a lot of respect for Swiggy. And PhonePe, when I was there, it was more like an experiment, a crazy experiment.
But that bloomed crazily. That bloomed like crazily.
So when I first saw the advertisement, I realized that I've heard this name somewhere. Okay, so this is what these guys were doing.
Yeah.
And the product was very impressive as well. So
ahead of its time.
Yeah, pretty much.
So now after Flipkart, we see you work in a couple of companies.
SAP.
There's another company that you work in, an analytics company. And then you went into Heineken.
Yeah.
Now, Heineken, I want to understand, and again, I understand that there are certain things that you are not allowed, like you won't talk about the business. But in Heineken, as a Fortune 500 company, how does it work? Like, what do you guys do as analytics? Like, give us like a broad picture.
Again, so this is a product analytics organization. So within Heineken, you have like various organizations. So analytics can be can build a product, or it can be an input for a business decision. So there are two kinds of analytics. So here we are primarily focusing on developing, say, intelligent products for business.
Okay.
So when we talk about business, these are all like B2B products. So internal products that we are building. Say, for example, one product will enable sales. One product will enable intelligent marketing. One basically measuring marketing. Right, so when we look at marketing, it's a very complex process to measure marketing, particularly when it becomes ATL. BTL is easy; it's relatively easy because you have click-through data, everything you capture it. But ATL is much more difficult. You put a banner in, say, an airport, and you think that how it impacted your sales, right? So it's very, very difficult to attribute to it. So those kinds of things, like in marketing. And then product recommendations or particularly market recommendations for B2B.
Yeah.
So that's how we do it. And then, something like in finance, is there a place where we can improve our cost structure in terms of, say, sourcing? Can we improve our cost structures, etc.? So we do create some products that will enable the team to make some better decisions or optimize their costs or improve revenue or improve customer experience.
But very front end kind of work, right? This is like product work. This is not back end. This doesn't sound back end to me. थोड़ा बहुत तो होगा ही उसके बिना तो
So intelligence is all in a back end. Front end is, of course, the product is going to be the front end, and of course I think in a way it is front end because the intelligence or the numbers that they are going to see will be in the front end. Say how are they going to say identify a particular image and say that okay, so all our products are placed in the way they must be. Okay, so that is actually an intelligence that we do provide.
Very cool. I think when we look at your entire journey, it sounds like a journey where things happened, you were part of them. I don't think so you are a person who planned too much, just things fell in place. You worked hard, God was kind, you were very kind, you were very humble. I think things fell in place, right? What I can understand from your journey.
Yeah, in a way, see, everybody's life is a work of randomness.
Yeah.
So, in a way, randomness has been kind. So, being an atheist, I don't believe in God.
You're atheist? I like it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not an atheist, but I'm saying.
Yeah. So, yeah, I used to go to temple like every Friday or whatever. Yeah, I used to be like that, but yeah, so off late, last 5-6 years, I've been. I think that I started understanding the world better, maybe. Maybe, yeah. I mean, you have a tipping point, right? So
but you're spiritual. You might not be into God, but are you spiritual generally? No?
Not even that. The spiritual is, I do have a different opinion on spiritual.
What is your opinion?
See, it's all obvious advice. The spirituality is about obvious advice. Okay, so there's someone who we think that who is wiser and who has all the answers with them. But what they do is they hide behind this long beard and they will say something which is be nice to someone. We as a human being we know it, right? So that's what spirituality is, positivity and all those things. See, these are all obvious things, but they pack it in a way and call it as spiritual.
I agree to your point, but I have a difference of opinion there. And I would not name certain gurus, but when you look at their learnings, they are very application oriented. So these things like you have to be a good person, be kind and all of that, is very obvious. But when you talk to a person with their POV, with their point of view, and you explain to them the science behind it, making it more relatable, I think that's where spirituality comes. Again, I can be wrong. That's what I feel, but fair enough. Fair enough.
It works for you well and good.
Fair enough.
But
I'm not a very spiritual kind of person, but yeah, fair enough. So I think Soudhakar, when we were talking, one thing that really struck me was your opinions about data privacy. And you are a person who has a very contrarian view about data privacy as opposed to what the general public or general leader would say. So, क्या लगता है आपको data privacy के बारे में? Is it like something we need to be really worried about, or you're like nothing to worry about?
Okay, so when we talk about data privacy, there are two parts to it. So one is personally identifiable information. So that is quite sensitive. So that is something that say for example your bank password. So that can pretty much wipe out your wealth. So those things are quite important. But other data like say any other information that how you shop or what are you buying or which place you are going, I mean those things are kind of overrated. And again some people are even against the idea of having like security camera in multiple places. But I would say that the cost benefit, if we coldly put logic and say the cost benefit analysis of having cameras everywhere will help us to reduce crime. And today with the help of AI we can identify who has made a mistake, or it can also create like say context, like it can even be a time series of data of events happening. So today, what we are seeing is like one video of someone hitting someone, and then we think that the person who hit is wrong. But there could have been an action that would have very well happened before. And plus, if we have a complete information, we can give, we can make a better society. We can, in fact, build a crime-free society. So that way, I don't mind sharing my data, and I feel that there is data privacy is overrated, and again, people who wants to hide behind data privacy are also people who do things behind shadows, right? So at the max, what is going to be there?
I agree to you. There are two ways to look at data privacy, as you said. First way is personal information. That is something that is very personal to you that can generally jeopardize whatever you're doing. Can be your safety, can be your finances, can be your relationships, anything. So that I do agree. That is a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
The other part is consumerism. The other part is advertisements targeted to sell you more products, which come from certain data points that any advertiser, any Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, Microsoft, whatever, would gather from you. Now, I am fully in support of that. I've always been, because I truly believe we are living in a consumer-focused world, where all of us are trying to maximize the kind of revenues, the kind of data points, the kind of selling channels we can do. So the second part I think is good, and it's good for the consumers also.
Yeah.
Because you can tell the consumer their needs which they might not think of.
Yeah.
And make their life better. Now, the other part is that, you're selling too much, debt is increasing, but that's fine, that's your problem.
Yeah. I think, we will learn to live with it. So when a new technology comes in, there will be a lot of people, who will be quite excited about it, and they will use it, and then, over a period of time, it will come down. So maybe e-commerce was a big thing in India in 2010. Today, everybody, buys a lot of stuff from e-commerce, right? So that has, I would say, it has stabilized to a certain extent. So today, we are talking about hyper-local, like Blinkit,
Blinkit.
Pretty much, I still doubt that, whether those guys are standing near my door and hearing me out, what am I even ordering, kind of a thing. But yeah, it has come to that. So in a way, it has made our lives better. So people wants to, if we put a cost benefit, I would generally say that data privacy, say maybe your passwords and all those things are something, it has to be safe. But anything outside that, I won't, mind sharing it. Yeah.
Cool. I think we talked a lot about data, about work, about career, college, family. One thing I was told is that other than this work side of yours, you also have a very other side, fun side, and you do mimicry. Is that true?
Yeah, it is true.
So, किसकी करोगे आप mimicry? करनी तो पड़ेगी अब अगर हमें पता लगे.
But I have to be in a state of mind. I mean, I have lots of co-workers, and I've imitated them.
किसी भी कर दो, कोई अगर if any famous personality we would know or anyone.
I think last few years I haven't done much of imitating
edit it
people.
if it's not good. You try it.
I think you have to edit it.
आप करो तो try.
I think Pradeep Menon does that action quite well. So he has this action. There is a small organization change that has happened. So Mr. A is going to report to Mr. B. What it actually means for our organization is, our organization will be more on the forefront. But saying that, whatever that you are going to stare in the Excel sheet is going to remain the same. So put down your heads and do your job. So this is Pradeep Menon, but I mean, I used to do a better version of this, but yeah, some of, I mean, mostly, people whom I'm close with, right? So I generally, try to imitate. And Pankaj Rai. And,
you can do Pankaj?
Pankaj, yeah.
Let's try.
That's Pankaj. I have two kinds of opinion on it. Different people, different opinion. I have my own opinion. This is something that but yeah, I mean, it's been some time.
Fair enough. So, Soudhakar, one last question. What is that one piece of advice you would want to give to a young individual who's starting their career, what can they learn from your successes and your failures? Any one piece of advice you want to give to them?
See, one thing would be, say, do what you really like. So, data science is something that I really like doing it. So, I figured out even before the hype of analytics came in, because back in 2009, I was very determined. I loved statistics, etc. So that's the reason, why I'm here. And today, there are many people are asking, which course should I take? So that is something that has to come from them and what they love to do. I think following the passion, again, spiritual, obvious advice, but still, that's what would work. And when people choose a particular path, there is, they have to be systematic.
Yeah.
Like every day, they have to, consistency is the key. It's not that in a few days I put in lots of hard work. It's all about habit formation.
Right.
So when we have a good habit formation, then, that will make you go places. So again, I'm the wrong person to give this advice because I do have a lot of bad habits with me. But anyways, at the end of the day, hard work, habit, two things that I would say. And yeah, follow your passion.
Perfect. I think this is a very good way to end it. Thank you so much, Soudhakar.
Thank you
so
much.
Lovely time with you. Thank you so much.
Same here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.